We're going to go through the Russia-Ukraine thing. And these are, I will say what I thought. And I'm not going to go out of the gates. I'm not saying I am some political theory and world geopolitical expert, but I would say that I'm an expert in cultural trends, what people are up to, propaganda to some degree.
A lot of propaganda.
And you have sort of an interesting take on this already because you actually are from the area.
Yeah. Oh, my parents are, yeah.
So Danny... Yeah, so Danny's
my parents are literally Russian people who are from Ukraine, but they're Russian. But they're Russian,
and they identify as Russian.
They're Russian. They speak. They don't. Well, my mom had to learn. Like she went to school when she was a kid, elementary school and stuff, and it was in Ukrainian, which she hated. It's the equivalent of if you were in Quebec and they say no French.
Right,
we're doing it all in English.
So her first language was Russian.
Yeah,
and then they forced her to speak Ukrainian,
and
Ukrainian, I believe it's called.
Yeah, Ukrainian, and they had to go to school in Ukrainian. You know, if you do any tests, it's all in.
So what's her take on this whole thing as a native?
They hate Putin. They're not any sort of pro-Putin. They don't like Russia.
They consider themselves from Russia, but they don't like
Russian.
Putin.
Yeah, they don't like Putin. They don't like Russia as a country particularly. That's why they left the moment they had an opportunity to. I would say that, they understand Russia, where they're coming from in the context of the whole historical thing of, they need that buffer of Ukraine in the event that the West ever tries to take them out. And they kind of said at some point after World War II that they would never fight another battle on Russian soil. And in order to keep that going, they need that stronghold of Ukraine to have that buffer so that if they're ever attacked, we're going to fight it in Ukraine. You can attack us, we'll fight you in Ukraine. And if you take us out there, then I guess it'll move. But
like a game of Risk.
It's like it is actually Risk. Yeah.
Well, I remember this is the thing that is kind of with all that stuff. Everyone has, not everyone, but most people have such a tiny view of what's happening in all cases, right? Whether that be like music, fucking cult, anything, right?
Yeah.
So they look at this and they go, well, this is the bad guy here or whatever, right? And you're like, well, it depends how far back you go. Because it's always, you can go, well, they did this. And you go, well, they did this because of this. And they did this because of this. It's almost like watching a couple that's fighting nonstop. Every time you go out, they have a fight. And then everyone's watching and they're the thing and they go, that was why that guy gets so mad at her over that little thing. And you go, it's a whole 200-year fucking thing.
It's just something she did in 1989 that pissed him off. And he's never forgotten it.
Yeah. So if you look at kind of the whole extended thing, it really is, this is what you would say probably everyone's up to. It seems like there is that thing where you go, whenever CNN and Fox are in agreement, you go, always be wary of that. And whenever it comes to war, it's almost like, and someone pointed this out, but when everyone was really fighting in America for the last long time, there wasn't any new wars during that period because the bipartisan consensuses are always the scariest ones.
Yeah. This one is kind of an interesting one because especially, first off, there is a real social media. This is the first war
first war that's being fought on social media.
Each side has like a social media arm.
Those are the real
and they have
soldiers.
and they have a million bots on both sides. Ukraine's definitely winning the war on social media, but if you talk to anybody who actually knows what's going on, they're like, yeah, Ukraine's fucked. Like they're not winning this.
Yeah.
Like, they're winning the hearts of America.
Right.
And that's the kind of united front is that it's hard for somebody to really take Putin's side right now.
Right, but they want to sort of blur the lines of whose side you're on and who do you think's right and wrong, and then they want you to now the blur that in with should America fight a war on behalf
that's
of
the big
Ukraine
and NATO and it sounds.
Well, basically you have the fucking neocons, neoliberals all sort of agree that fucking beating the war drums, right?
Yeah.
Media is mostly doing their bit.
Although Biden has said nonstop, he's saying we're not sending troops over there.
Well,
but you get nukes into the equation.
Yeah.
And then you force the hand and that's it.
Yeah, you don't want to sound like some fucking hippie pussy either.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's straight up saying he knows how that, because again, Biden is kind of, he's a Democrat, but he's people say he's kind of a Republican too. He does not. He could change his tune, but for now he's saying we're not going.
And then there's the fucking, I would say like the kind of internet right that is almost Trump people that they hate America. They like fucking kind of hate Western America bullshit so much that they love Russia.
They love Russia.
It's like almost tongue in cheek love Russia.
Trolling, yeah.
Some
like
of them for
Patrick.
real.
Yeah.
But I would say some people legit do say like, fucking, I'll tell you what, they're not arguing about trans bathrooms in Russia or whatever,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And then you'd have fucking
like
probably the fucking, the dirtbag left sort of, and then libertarian sort of non-interventionist type of thing, right? Mm-hmm. Which they're sort of, I would say that take is more that, that you want to have a good guy and a bad guy here, but it's like there is two bad guys, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I don't know if really Zelensky's the bad guy, but he's definitely, like I said, winning that social media war.
No. So I would say their argument wouldn't be that he's necessarily the bad guy. Is that if you look far enough back, they went into Ukraine and basically took out the Democratic person and put this person there and blah blah blah.
But it was
blah.
It was super corrupt, and then because it used to be a Russian, like the leader of Ukraine before Zelensky was a Russian puppet.
Pretty funny that he's a comedian, right?
Not only is he a comedian, he got a show that
imagine Rick Rowley
he like had a viral video or something, and then became the president.
He was being the president too.
And being the president had
that's like if fucking Kyle Dunnigan just like we get to be the president,
kind of, and then he does become the president.
Or the Sarah Cooper did the Trump impressions, and they go, you know what if you just did it?
You just became the president, but.
Well, Quebec basically came out. So the internet stuff's been incredible. Quebec said that they dropped poutine from the menu.
Insane.
That was
fucking insane because they say Putin.
They say Putin.
Why don't you just say it like? The thing is, they hate English people so much that if the alternative was, hey, why don't you say it like the rest of us?
We'd rather die.
We say poutine, and they go, yeah, we'll just not eat it.
We'll just not eat it. They hate that's they also said no walking slow no walking fast. No one's allowed to be rushing.
No rushing.
No rushing. You have to be always everyone at all times for the good of Ukraine is going to be walking at a very slow pace because there's going to be no rushing happening in Quebec. These things are. First of all, most people's is publicity stunts, like the sanctions, the banning of, the stores coming out. And there's like some small bar and go, yeah, I just want to say that I won't be selling Russian beer. And you're like, okay, so most bars, you go, okay, so you had one bottle of Russian vodka and you just go, you know what, I'll take this home.
Which most of them are actually made in Latvia, apparently. So, but yeah, Ontario did that. The LCBO is no longer carrying.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Like Russian vodka.
And then
dude, like FIFA, like they today removed the Russian team from the video game.
Funny.
And what is it? CCM is the hockey company. They're not
they were
running any sponsors.
They were kicking Russians off OnlyFans, but then they basically let them back on because the sex worker lobby's strong right now.
Yeah.
OnlyFans, every time they try to make a big publicity stunt thing, everyone goes, all of the people go, what are you doing? And like all the fucking prostitutes or whatever go, fuck this. And then
that's the thing. Russia doesn't have. Russia only like. Do you know of any Russian product you've ever purchased? They have oil and wheat.
Well, apparently Stoli vodka, I guess.
But I don't think so. I think it's actually made in Latvia. Maybe not, but they don't really make shit.
Right.
They don't have exports.
Well, so they're somewhat of a self-sufficient economy.
They have wheat and oil. Oil is the main one.
That girl's viral video did 50,000 views. So basically, I don't know who hasn't seen this, but
the poem?
The poem.
50 million.
50 million views that Danny made fun of or whatever. But that is crazy, the extent to which everyone came together and was like, this is the gayest shit anyone's ever made.
Cringiest. No matter what side of your aisle you're on.
If you haven't seen this, she goes, if Putin was my son, I would have treated him better. Because they want to make it seem like he's gone mad sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Which some people do think that.
Yeah.
I've been seeing some thoughts, which, he's so whenever he has a photo of him and his generals, it's like an 80-foot long table and he's at one end of it and they're all at the other end of it.
I know.
It kind of is crazy watching that stuff. The only thing I can't think of, or I can't really imagine, is he has all these sanctions, but he had to see all this shit coming.
You say that you thought this wasn't the biggest, like it's not working out that great for him, this move.
Well, it's not, because it doesn't sound like they anticipated the actual Ukrainian civilians to grab guns and take up arms against. I think they thought we were going to march in and it'll be, a day of this shit, and it'll be all kind of like just red tape, and we'll just get in there, and that's the end of it. And dude, like, remember Vladimir Klitschko, the heavyweight boxer champion of the world, and his brother Vitaly? They were both heavyweight champions of the world boxing forever. And one of them's the mayor of Kiev, and they're just like, yeah, we're fucking fighting you guys. So you have to deal with the former heavyweight champion of the world. You're coming in there, some like puke 19-year-old conscript from Russia who just is like, I don't know, I have no idea what's going on. And it's like these dudes are like 6'8".
That's what the citizens fighting as well. That was another one funny that they did say there. It was just like, hey, anyone who wants to come fight with us is welcome to. And it was just funny. Everyone that wanted to fight, it was just kind of like, we're not going to come there and fight. And they're like, no, come on. Everyone's like, we need to do everything in our power. And then the Ukrainian government's like, yo, come down. We'll give you guns. And everyone's like, I don't know.
The best is, they released all these prisoners.
That was another one of my favorites.
Like it's like a movie.
Releasing the prisoners is literally
like some dude's in his cell smoking a
no. This is every movie.
They go,
when the aliens come down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's insane,
dude. It was that was the 100, the 109 or whatever. That's what they do. They legitimately go get the biggest guy, and it never works out very good releasing the prisoners, because afterwards they want to be like, good fight. Anyways, back to your cage.
Right.
What do they do?
Well, no. I think
they say they fight for their freedom.
I think some of them you fight for the freedom, and then they let you just wander off into the woods. That's how that movie ends.
Go in the woods,
you get to go live in the woods.
Well, especially some of them where they go, the guy's out there fighting and shooting or whatever, and he's going to the house, and afterwards they go, you're a hero, and they go, what was he in there? Raped a bunch of kids. I guess certain things.
There are probably some like kid rapists. I don't think they let out everybody, but like someone who's a violent murderer, they go, okay, just promise us you're not going to murder the wrong people.
Look at me in the eye.
Yeah, but the kid diddlers, they're probably like, hey, I can fight. And they're like, nah, you're going to stay.
I think you're going to stay.
We have our limits.
But yeah, you're right. That would be huge, though.
Yeah.
Imagine you just got in for your 1-year sentence and they go, you're back out and fighting, and oh man, that'd be the dream.
More importantly, if you have some dude who, killed a serial killer who was like wearing people's skin and boiling them and eating them, you go, get this guy to the front.
That really is like a movie.
Yeah, it is. Honestly, it's insane.
And they took the ceremonial stuff's just so funny. Like the judo organization taking Putin's belt away. That was probably one of my favorite things I've seen. They took his black belt away.
It's crazy.
And his power. I was saying this in my video, but his powers do come from his black belt. You've seen all the videos, right?
Where judo,
he's teaching kids. He's got the Seagal thing. He does the same thing as Seagal. Remember when Seagal was doing the UFC fighter?
Are we keeping Seagal up?
Well, yeah.
Traitor to America, Steven Seagal.
Nah, you'll never, dude. If Seagal goes full Russian, he hasn't spoke yet. But whatever he says, I'm with.
His agent is probably like, please, Steven, if you ever want to work again,
if the agent wants to work again, he makes his own movies. He funds his own movies. He writes direct. Dude, I think he does his own catering.
He comes in, he goes, that was the best sandwich I've ever eaten.
Yeah, who made it? I did. Yeah, Seagal. He doesn't need shit, but Seagal does the thing where he brings all these people in and then he lets them. They let him beat them up, right, for his demonstrations. Putin, he used to play hockey.
I know.
Yeah, he would play in the hockey game. He plays
regularly still,
and
he just pick up Tuesday
in the
nights.
Russian National League, and fucking score like 12 goals. It's legitimately The Dictator, like the Sacha Baron Cohen movie, The Dictator, when he's just crushing everybody.
Oh yeah, it's insane.
That stuff's so fun.
I mean, he has someone I was talking to was saying, the problem is he has nobody telling him no.
Yeah, that doesn't help. After 20 years, that gets you a little wild.
Classic dictator stuff where he's like, we should invade, we should do this, and everybody's like, yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
Great idea. We're gonna.
How do you do it? How do you keep coming up with such good ideas?
I mean,
we'll
win this in a day.
Well, with the Seagal, he used to go to the UFC, and he had the one guy, Anderson, that he would show him kicks, and he would literally spend 8 minutes with them. And then the guy would win and Seagal would go on to a press tour about how he basically taught him everything he knows. It was incredible, right? But that was the same thing, the Russian guy. He basically goes to these karate matches and it gives the guys a little pep talk. And then he basically says, I think he probably gives both sides a pep talk. And then he comes out and he goes,
yeah. I mean, that was the
Putin charm
thing too. They would post polls from Russia. I mean, like, 50% of Russians support him. And you're like, no, they don't. They're just, those are the 50% who want to like keep their shit, and they're
right. Those are anonymous polls. You're saying,
yeah, well, exactly. They're not anonymous, and you're like, it's not 50%. Yeah, it's probably 25 or 30%.
9 guys show up at your house, and they go, "So, what do you think? Putin's sick or not sick?" And then you go, "Great guy."
They just have a
great guy
bat hitting against their hand. What do you think?
Yeah.
Not.
Well, that was your story that your family friend, was it in Russia, that they said something wrong about Putin and then just disappeared?
No, it was my
for
grandmother's. No. This wasn't about Putin. This was, Putin used to be part of the KGB, right? He was like a star KGB agent kind of good or whatever.
He was a up and coming KGB
yeah,
guy.
and then I was actually listening to some podcasts, and then he basically helped Yeltsin out a lot. That's how he got into power. But no, this is KGB in like the 50s, and my grandmother, just someone in her building told a joke about the government. And the whole thing with communism and that stuff is they kind of say everybody's ratting on each other. Everybody's kind of a spy.
Kind of like how it is now.
Kind of, yeah, in comedy, essentially. And then but he just told some joke about, making fun of, like, hey, Trump's orange equivalent. And go, that Trump is an orange guy.
Your jumpsuit's now orange for the red.
And then he's now breaking rocks in
Making
Siberia.
license plates.
Breaking rocks in Siberia for...
How long did they go break
10
rocks?
years or something?
That'd be tough, probably.
Yeah. There's not even a purpose of it. It's just breaking rocks for the sake of punishment.
Yeah, is that the thing where they just try to break you, where you have to do stuff that doesn't even make sense? At least here you're making
it's not like they have some big rock industry. They're just like, hey, see those rocks? Let's make them smaller. There's an endless supply of them.
Not great.
No.
Well, that was some of my favorite ones. The not enough women on Ukraine's board. There was a lot of posts going around like that where they would post Ukraine and it would be like him having meetings with 3 or 4 people. And then people would posting like, why is there no more women here, involved in... They need more women deciding what the Ukrainian government's going to do right now to fight back. The Young Turks had a great one. Chenkonger, who's pretty good for takes right now because he's Mr.
He's really getting crazy.
He's just so... he was this, internet leftist. It's just turned like straight up Democrat corporate shill, essentially, right?
Yeah, but he's really like angry, it seems.
Is he angry?
Yeah.
He's sort of like a left-wing Alex Jones.
He is, yeah. He's got like, it's all puffed his chest up.
His chest is puffed out, yeah. But basically he came out, and among other people, but he was one of the main ones that says, the only reason that people are letting Putin get away with this is because he's white, man.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And then, which is so funny because you could easily make the argument the other way where you go, if you really believe that's what's happening, you go, first of all, they're sort of not getting away with it. But second of all, you could also make the argument saying the only reason that people are rallying around Ukraine so much is because they're white. Like you could easily make that same argument and go, if this was fucking Yemen, would really everyone in America be... not to say it's true, but I go, would that not... The same argument could be made both ways.
It's happening in Yemen right now. It is happening in Yemen.
Yeah. Well, not the exact same, but I mean, it's happening by America almost. Yeah. But you go, that argument, both sides are white.
Yeah. I mean,
they're ethnically the same.
It's literally the representation thing where people say, we need representation so that we need to see on TV an Asian mechanic, so I know that I could be an Asian mechanic or whatever. So it's people are finally seeing themselves as refugees, and they go, "Oh shit, that could happen to me." And that's when it affects them. I guess I don't know.
You think that's what's happening with him?
Well, that's the explanation. I mean, when he's saying, "Oh, like it's whatever white people," that's why white people care.
He's saying white people. No, I'm saying you could make that argument. He's saying that Russia is getting away with this because he's a white man.
Oh, I was saying the other side of it.
Well, no, my point was you could literally make that same argument anything. Both ways because they're both white.
Yeah. I mean,
So it was just obviously what that's called is propaganda to try to fucking push whatever.
Speaking of propaganda, I've been following the Russian Times.
Danny has been. Is that their logo?
No. It's RT.
Jingle?
RT. No, they don't know. No, I just broke out in a jingle.
Well, Danny, you've always been following Russian Times. He's always sending me articles.
I just started following it, but it's funny because they have 2 comedians, American comedians, who have shows.
Well, they have other people too. Like they reached out to people in America, comedians, and they asked them they want to fund American comedians. So
they do.
No, I know one.
Miller.
Yeah.
Dennis Miller canceled his show.
So Dennis Miller had a show on RT?
Yeah, up until like 3 days ago.
Isn't that strange?
Yes.
They wanted to take a meeting and stuff, and I was kind of like, I didn't get it at the time. I go, so the Russian government just puts all this money into funding Canadian things? And it's essentially...
Well, they have a channel, and
where's the channel?
It's on cable on, probably like the 300s.
Right.
And they have this channel, and for them... they have tons of money. For them to get any sort of influence and to come off as not propaganda, it's worth it. So they get.
But how does it come off as not propaganda if you're I have my new TV show, not propaganda? What channel is it on? The Russia.
Well, because before now, it
slipped under the radar.
It slipped under the radar. They weren't.
If you were watching Mexico TV,
well, it was
you
super liberal too. Like it was super like anti-war, super liberal. It's how Al Jazeera has has AJ Plus,
and some of their shows are big.
Yeah, and they're super. They're like Trump is bad, and they're super woke. And so that's kind of the RT thing. And they have this guy Lee Camp, he's a comedian, and he had a show too. It's called Redacted Tonight, I believe is a show. And he had his episode last week, and I saw this was right after the invasion, and he posted it on Twitter, and everybody's like, yo, what the fuck, man? Because everybody kind of just was fine with it until this happened.
So basically,
and his episode, he does not even mention anything that's happening.
He's just complete business as usual.
He's just like, yeah, so fucking Biden elected a black Supreme Court justice. That's great. It's crazy.
They completely ignore it.
But again, his marching orders, he probably gets paid handsomely.
Right.
Right? Like that's their big thing is they probably... Dennis Miller and stuff, nobody was giving Dennis Miller a show. And then they were like, hey, Dennis Miller, we'll give you a show and pay you more than what you've ever made.
No, they got money, yeah.
Right? So you kind of like, God damn.
Maybe I opened up some fucking conversations with Russia today.
Yeah. Well, they're about to get banned, which is not a good thing.
Right. Okay.
So in terms of the...
So Dennis Miller said, I'm not going to do my Russian
Dennis
show.
Miller was just like, okay, I'm done. I'm out of here. But
it was too hot for him.
Lee Camp is kind of, he's just like, I'm doing
He's
this
still
shit.
kicking. He's doing business as usual.
Well, Lee Camp's kind of
Kamala, he's talking about Elizabeth Warren.
He's just like, I've always been anti-war. I'm against this war. I've always been anti-war.
So it's consistent.
But don't believe everything you see with what's going on online in terms of like,
It is one of those things
which is
where
true.
Yes, but it is a position where if your position, this is why I think a lot of times the best comedians don't sort of
take shows on Russia.
No,
today?
but align themselves completely with fucking political, so anyone gives a shit what you have to think. It's the same reason why, Danny, if you and your girlfriend were in a fight and I wanted to weigh in to her, is my opinion worth anything?
Yeah.
So obviously, if you're on the fucking, the Hillary network and they're talking about politics and you go, I have something to say about, I actually think Hillary's innocent. You go, do you now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, again, these are just two guys who took probably literal bags of money.
They took bags. But I don't know if they have that much bags.
RT?
You think they're putting out money for the show?
Oil money. It's straight up. It's straight up their Russian propaganda. I went on their Twitter.
Well, I know a few people.
I went on their Twitter earlier, and their big thing is saying, "Hey, there's lies going out on about us," and the lies are essentially like
about the network or about Russia.
About Russia.
Okay.
But the lies are like, hey, Ghost of Kiev, do you see that fighter pilot? And it was like a fake thing. And they go like, yeah, there's these fake things. Like, but all those other things are real. Like watching a bomb fucking hit a TV tower and all this shit. And they're trying to be like, well, but there's a few things that, look at us. We gave them some citizens some tea or whatever.
Okay.
Like these minor things. You go, but you're ignoring all the other things that are true. Right. That are bad. But there is just pointing out that there's a few things that have been...
Yeah, but I think there is something to be said about whether it's coming from them or not, where you go, and this is where I think a lot of people are at, where you go, it's very hard to, right now in anything, it's hard to parse out what's happening because you've watched everyone lie to you too much.
Yeah.
So you're
and
always
there are still tons of people retweeting. The classic thing is the Snake Island. You see that? The Snake Island thing or whatever? That was the first thing that happened.
That's when me and the boys come out and we got the dongs out. We call it Snake Island.
But so they have this island that they
Island?
occupy just as like there's nothing goes on there, but they just need the land or whatever. And then, they go, hey, there's Russia, surrender. And then they go fuck yourself. And that was like everywhere and then they killed them all. And the Ukrainian government says they're going to be posthumously like heroes, blah, 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 all this stuff. And then it just came out that they all did surrender and the Russians, none of them were killed.
I saw that.
But I still see people posting that.
It doesn't
and
stop.
I still see it on the news, even though it's been debunked that none of them were killed. They're still they post it because why not? It gets the clicks and
it gets the clicks, but it seems to align with the message people want to get out there. Whatever,
but this is, it's David versus Goliath. Who wants to post pro Goliath stuff? Like if it's a lie,
I guess it's David versus Goliath, unless the United States was involved, and then all of a sudden it's Goliath versus smaller Goliath. I guess, right?
No, way bigger Goliath.
No, I was saying...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, like if Russia decides to step a foot into Poland, this thing is fucking over.
You're saying it's fucking donezo for Putin.
Oh, yeah.
But what if they unleash their secret weapon of Putin, where they go, you know what, this is too much, and there's only one man that can stop it, and then Steven Seagal and Putin get out of the jet and just fucking... one after another.
They get dropped down from the helicopter just in downtown.
You would not want that.
And it's Putin and Seagal against the two Klitschko brothers. And they all have weapons, but they throw them down. Take off the shirts. Pop the shirts, fucking drop the weapons. And let's do this mano a mano.
In the Seagal movies, he has like 15 seconds to get this. He has to get to this thing to press the button before the whole town gets nuked or whatever. And he has like a very limited amount of time, maybe a minute. And then he still drops the weapons and goes hand to hand combat.
Yeah, he goes, I don't want this to be too easy.
Yeah, so I think that's what'll probably happen if America tried to drop a bomb. They would drop Putin, and then the Judo Association. What they wouldn't realize is he sent one of his minions to go steal back his belt.
Yeah, the real scary thing with Putin actually is that he very much. There's no scenario, even if he totally miscalculated all this stuff. There's no scenario where he goes back to Russia with his tail between his legs.
Right.
So if anything, he's just going to get kind of crazier. I actually was thinking, not that I'm worried about an actual nuke dropping, even though that would suck, but I am worried that we're going to get in fucking toilet paper COVID 2.0, where the thoughts of this start causing people to start
People
panicking.
are going to lose their minds. Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, we got to go see all the canned goods and all the toilet paper, and it's just going to be COVID 2.0 with that shit, where everything's going to run out of everything.
If they have the fucking nerve to do some bullshit on the day of my special, I swear to God,
they
dude.
drop a nuke.
It's on site with Putin if he does some fucking nonsense on March 7th. If Putin decides that he's going to do some step foot into Poland or some shit like that,
dude.
March 7th, I'm telling you, Putin, and I know your boys with Seagal, so that's the only reason I'm giving you this warning.
Yep.
But this is a verbal. Do not make it get physical. That's all. I'm going to leave it at that. The Taliban condemning, which was the Taliban condemning it is just the Taliban doing anything right now fucking rules. I follow Osama bin Laden's family members and anything.
But they're like the Trump.
They love Trump and
Trump,
stuff.
They're the American family members.
Yeah. And it's funny very much when the Taliban condemns anything, and they just anytime they release, it's kind of even Trump's press releases are still funny, right? But the Taliban coming in being like, this guy is fucking nuts, huh?
Just licking an ice cream, being like,
you believe this guy?
You believe these turkeys?
Also, I guess it was a funny move, Russia saying that we're starting the anti-fascist conference, them doing the same trick that Antifa does here, where they go...
Well, that's what they said. We're going to go denazify Ukraine.
Right.
But they do have Nazis.
It is it's the oldest trick in the book, right? Where everyone does this. They go, I always say the government, what their big thing is, they go, this is the bill. They go, this is the help everyone bill. You go, what's in there? You go, none of your business. None of your fucking business. What's in the help everyone bill? Do you not? Do you?
Oh, you want to not help anyone? Okay. We can do that too, I guess.
Yeah, the make people's lives better bill. And you go, what's in there? and you go, they slap your hand away, right? Yeah, so they don't fucking worry what's in the make everyone's life better bill. So that's kind of what the anti-fascist thing was, right? But it's funny to watch 15 different people being like, we're anti-fascists, like we're actually anti-fascists, like, oh yeah.
Also, it's coming from Putin. If he had any sort of other reputation, maybe that would have, like he said, he goes, oh, we're going to get rid of the Nazis. And there is this thing called like the Azov Battalion who are in eastern Ukraine. Who are part of those territories that wanted to separate, and they are legit.
Well, that's
Nazis,
one of the things.
But there's not a lot of them.
Well, that was one of the things our body was pointing out. That's funny that because the narrative is full forest Russians bad or whatever. They're sort of saying these actual Nazis are actually not that bad, and that's propaganda. It's bullied them into supporting actual Nazis.
Yeah,
that's what he was sort of pointing out.
So, yeah, but basically,
so one of the funny unintended consequences of this whole thing. I thought it was just an interesting one to watch everyone cheer on when they're like, hey, we're giving our citizens back the guns because we took all their guns away and then we're giving them back their guns now to fight again.
Well, you're not hearing a lot from the anti-Second Amendment people right now. They're kind of gone quiet.
Exactly, right?
Pretty much,
Another thing was...
The worst thing would be the worst thing for them right now would be a big school mass shooting.
I think they'd be torn, right?
Yeah, they're like, should everybody have guns? Should everybody not have guns?
Well, they had... so there was that conference. It was like America First conference, was it, that you sent me or something?
Yeah, the Nick Fuentes.
So basically, they had this guy there, and I guess they were sort of like saying Russia rules, right?
Yeah, they're all basically... So there are Russia rules because it's a all white Christian kind of monoculture.
Well, the funny part was there was this senator, or what he was.
No, Joe Arpaio. He's the famous sheriff from Arizona. Oh, he made all the inmates. He ran one of those outdoor prisons, and they all had to wear pink to humiliate them.
Those guys seem like bad guys, eh?
He is, and he's. I mean, some people like him, but
whenever you watch cop shows,
he's kind of a bit disgraced.
If there's anyone here that watches cop shows, anyone in the on the podcast that happens to watch cop shows, I actually do, but there's nothing that's worse. Every time they need a bad guy, they bring down a Texas sheriff. Yeah. So I'd say 3 times an episode in every show, the Texas sheriff who doesn't play by the rules comes, and he always thinks they're being too soft on the inmates, and he's got the fake cowboy tie.
Oh yeah, the bolo.
So the Texas they like to take the inmates for a ride where they.
Kind of like toss them around.
Yeah, they have a whole word.
There was all these A&E forever. A&E would do worst prisons in America.
It's always Texas ones?
No, it's not Texas, Arizona. But it was always him, Joe Arpaio, because he was into humiliating the
gotcha
with the pink.
So they like him.
Well,
anyways, he does a thing, and
they
he goes on the he's doing a speech, and he goes, these people called me the most racist guy in the world, and everyone cheers, and he goes, well, I don't know why you're cheering. I'm not.
Yeah. Like, wait, do you think I am racist?
Yeah, it's kind of like an older guy not understanding the context of these
things. They just invited him. They say, hey, here's 1,200 Republicans, because Marjorie Taylor Greene was there
right.
too. They go, hey, here's 1,200 young Republicans. And they're just like, okay, well, I guess we'll talk to them.
The late night shows were loving that.
That's the
Trump
one thing I
back.
actually haven't seen.
Well, no, it's still
any late night since.
So
the
Trump
war.
was out there kind of saying that Russia was making smart moves or whatever, and they were all licking their lips. So from there was they were those profile pieces were back where they say what Trump said and then show back to back. Here's what Noah said. Here's what Colbert says. Here's what Kimmel says. Poo poo poo. The 3-punch. That was Trump's worst nightmare.
I mean, Trump,
when all three of them come at him?
Trump badly. He made the same miscalculation that Russia made, which is that the Ukrainian people wouldn't fight back. So Trump was like, "Oh, it's so smart of him." Blah blah blah. Trump assumed it would be over in 24 hours too.
Yeah,
because he was just watching. The
and
news.
he kind of had to go back on that and be like, it wasn't the smartest move. Yeah.
Well, because it wasn't.
Yeah.
Now you see a week later, you go, "Oh yeah, that's not working out." So he just kind of was eating the gruel that fucking everybody else was eating, getting spoon fed, and
so what happened? Yeah, because Putin started getting bitched around a little bit, but then what happens? I guess if he gets
he just wasn't expecting to have any pushback at all. He was just gonna roll right into Kiev and take it.
It seems like there was
people are.
Why would he think that though?
Because there are so many people there who are Russian.
He thought that they'd be pumped to be engulfed.
Part of Russia, yeah. Then he goes,
in your opinion, what percentage of people are pumped to be engulfed?
To be annexed, no, there's some, but again, those eastern like separatist portions or whatever, that's not Kiev. Kiev's the capital of 5 million people on the other side of the country, basically. He just needed to take over the government, install a new puppet government.
If you were there,
yeah,
if you were Ukrainian, are you dipping or are you staying and fight?
If I'm ethnically Ukrainian?
If you're ethnically Ukrainian, Russians coming, do you when they say every citizen, every man, the women and children can leave, all the men have to stay.
I mean, you don't even have the choice to leave.
No, I know. Do you try to make a break for
Go
it?
trans?
That's why I'm saying you missed out by your way out of the country.
Oh, hello.
My point is, do you stay and fight or do you try to weasel out?
That's a tough question. I can only.
Are you on the bottom of a train kind of thing?
I can only put myself in the shoes of if I was living in Canada still.
If you're living in Canada,
and there was some sort of invasion,
and then Justin Trudeau goes, "Everyone, pick up your arms and fight."
I mean, I don't know how.
Do you get a gun?
I think
you get your nunchucks.
I toy with the idea of the gun. Yeah, I mean, if it was something, imagine you were in Canada and then all of a sudden downtown Toronto, there's just Chinese tanks rolling through. You probably are like,
are you standing?
You probably have feelings about that you never thought you would have until you actually see it.
Well, I got to be honest. I think my feelings are we're getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
but you try. You got to try to get your mom and your people out of there first.
I would. I think
I run a mission to get the family out of there.
I actually did think about this, and I would straight up do what I would do when I played Call of Duty, which is I'd be a camper. Everybody hates the campers. I know people are just rolling their eyes right now, but I'd be like the sniper. I would try to be a sniper. I would be, at the top of some building, just like peeking my eye over, and then just fucking just picking off. Or at least trying to.
I always think of my one buddy who's university.
It's like the most hated people in Call of Duty is some guy who's just like in the corner of the map, can't see it, and he just doesn't get that many kills.
It's the same as the guys that used to play paintball, and they would wait for like a bunch of like a hockey team to come in and for their year, and they're just regulars at the thing, and they stand up at the top just sniping 12-year-olds, and this guy's got all the gear and the best goggles.
But there is another issue too. They all look the same. Although, they obviously have different dialects, but they all look the same. And then they're wearing each other's uniforms.
It's hard to figure out who's who. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're ethnically the same too.
Yeah. Yeah. And they have, it's the equivalent difference in language of a Canadian and an American kind of.
Yeah.
It's hard, you can tell, but it's not super easy, and genetically they look all the same.
Right, fellas. Thank you for watching that exclusive Boyscast clip and supporting the channel. If you want to support the podcast, we have a new episode every week at patreon.com/theboyscast. Only 5 bones, and there's a tons of episodes up there right now. So support the cast, support the boys.
Link right there.
Peace.